Okay, so let's unpack this. You're in Fukuoka, right? The acknowledged home of tonkotsu ramen, that really rich, milky pork bone broth.
Classic stuff.
And you see these queues, like long queues, snaking down the street.
Yep.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Those lines, often they're just packed with foreign tourists waiting outside Ramen Ichiran.
Right, that specific chain.
So what's the deal? Why is this one place, which isn't always like the top local favorite, such a huge draw for international visitors?
Yeah, that's the core question.
That's what we're diving deep into today.
And it is fascinating, isn't it? This real difference in perception. We've been looking at articles, online reviews, even, local chatter.
Trying to piece it together.
Exactly. To understand why Ramen Ichiran in Fukuoka has become this kind of pilgrimage site for tourists, while the locals who, let's be honest, really know their ramen.
They grew up with it.
Right. They often head somewhere else entirely. So our mission, listener, is to sort of pinpoint the specific factors. Is it the cultural appeal, the dining experience itself, maybe just smart branding that create these really contrasting views?
Okay, so Ichiran. It's not exactly new on the scene, is it? It has history.
Oh, absolutely not. It started right there in Fukuoka, way back in 1960, and it was all about tonkotsu ramen from the beginning.
Right, that Fukuoka specialty.
Exactly. And they've definitely grown. I mean, over 80 stores now, not just in Japan, but New York, Hong Kong, Taiwan.
Wow, okay. Big presence.
Yeah. So for a lot of tourists, it's become this easily recognizable name, sort of a symbol of Fukuoka's ramen, a convenient first taste, you could say.
Okay, so that global name recognition helps, but what's specifically pulling tourists into that restaurant in Fukuoka? What's the angle there?
Well, I think there are several key things going on. One really, really distinctive feature is their ramen focus booths.
Ah, yeah. I have some pictures, like little individual cubicles. Exactly.
Yeah.
Individual, private spaces where you can just like focus entirely on your bowl of ramen.
Mm.
And for a lot of tourists, maybe people who value privacy or are a bit intimidated dining alone in a foreign country, this is a really unique and appealing idea.
I could see that.
Plus, practically speaking, an article on Nippon.com mentioned that they have these customizable order sheets in multiple languages: Japanese, English, Chinese, Korean.
Oh, that's smart.
Makes ordering super straightforward for almost anyone.
That totally makes sense. You land in a new place, maybe the language is a barrier, and suddenly you've got this personalized, almost self-contained ramen experience where you actually know what you're asking for.
Right.
Takes away a lot of the potential stress, I imagine.
Definitely. And then, you have to consider the power of that international brand we mentioned.
Because they have branches overseas.
Exactly. It's a familiar name. And that familiarity, well, it can offer a real sense of security, especially for first-time visitors to Japan. There was a piece on matcha-jp.com that sort of touched on this.
It suggested that the consistent taste they have globally actually makes people want to try the, quote, authentic taste in Fukuoka, where it all started.
Ah, okay. Like going to the source. You've had the preview overseas. Now you want the real deal where it originated.
Pretty much. It's
Yeah.
that pilgrimage idea again.
Right. What else is drawing tourists in? What else is on the menu, so to speak?
Well, price and customization are definitely part of it. A bowl of ramen there, usually under 2,000 yen.
Which, for a tourist, maybe it seems like pretty good value, especially for a famous place.
Yeah, generally seen as good value. And then there's the customization. People love that. Being able to fine-tune everything. The richness of the soup, how much garlic, the spice level.
You get to be the chef, almost.
Kind of. That control is a big plus. We actually saw a TripAdvisor review from a tourist from Singapore. I think it was May 2025.
Yeah, what did they say?
They just raved about how fun the customization was and how delicious it ended up being. Worth the wait, they said.
Fun and delicious, can't argue that. And it's not just about the food in the bowl itself, is it? What seems to be more to the Ichiran experience in Fukuoka.
Precisely. Yeah, they've actually created this place called Ichiran Forest out in Itoshima.
Ichiran Forest. Okay, what's that?
It's not just a restaurant. It's like a whole complex. You can tour their production facilities. There's a museum. And, of course, you can eat ramen there, too.
Huh. So it's an attraction.
Yeah, the Visit Fukuoka guide even describes it as a chance to experience the ramen manufacturing process in a natural environment. It has this whole other layer. Turns a meal into more of a cultural outing.
So it becomes a destination in its own right.
Okay.
I'm guessing travel guides and, social media must be amplifying all of this like crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Ichiran is constantly listed as a must-try spot in Fukuoka in, like, countless guides and articles online.
You see it everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you go on platforms like X, formerly Twitter, and you see loads of positive posts. Tourists sharing pictures of their little booths saying it was worth the wait.
Yeah, those visuals are powerful.
Incredibly persuasive for other travelers planning their trips. That kind of online buzz, it just feeds itself.
Okay, okay. So we're getting a really clear picture now of why tourists are lining up. But let's flip the coin. Why aren't the locals quite as um, obsessed? Fukuoka is, as you said, a ramen mecca.
That is the key point. Fukuoka is the birthplace of tonkotsu ramen, and locals, well, they have a really deep, nuanced understanding of it. It's not just one thing.
Right, there are different styles.
Exactly. There's a huge variety of regional styles just within that area, Lagahama style, Kurume, Hakata.
Hmm.
Each one has its own, distinct character.
So locals have more options and maybe deeper loyalties.
Definitely more options. And they often have their personal favorites, maybe more traditional shops.
Hmm.
Places like Nagahama No. 1 or Shinasoba Tsukiya, which were mentioned in a Good Elec trip article. These are often seen as more, I guess, authentic, offering unique flavors, a different atmosphere, maybe a more genuinely local vibe.
Right. It's like the difference between, I don't know, a local neighborhood bakery that everyone swears by and a big national chain.
That's a good analogy. So for locals, Ichiran might feel a little, well, too commercial.
Touristy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they've expanded so much,
Mm.
and they clearly cater heavily to tourists with the multilingual menus and the booths. Some locals see it as tourist-focused.
You actually see people saying that?
Oh, yeah. You see comments on X, things like, Ichiran is for tourists, locals know the better restaurants. There's this sort of sentiment that maybe it's lost some of its original local soul in chasing that broader appeal.
Mm.
Interestingly, InstantRamen.jp back in 2021 even described Ichiran as having a bit of a theme park atmosphere compared to the more authentic restaurants that locals might prefer.
A theme park atmosphere. Wow, that's quite a description.
Yeah.
It suggests maybe some of the, I don't know, the grit or the traditional charm has been smoothed out for a more standardized experience.
Perhaps. Something easier for a wider audience to digest, maybe.
And what about the actual taste and the price? Do locals think it holds up on those fronts?
That's where opinions get a bit more mixed, I'd say. You do see some local reviews on TripAdvisor that describe the taste as just, average.
Not bad, but not amazing.
Pretty much. We saw one from a reviewer in Fukuoka, January 2024. Gave it 4 stars, which is decent.
Yeah.
But they still added, Ichiran isn't bad, but there are more authentic tonkotsu restaurants in my hometown.
Yeah.
Kind of a polite way of saying, look elsewhere.
Right. A qualified recommendation.
No?
And the price.
Some locals do find it a little expensive, especially when you compare it to smaller, maybe less flashy, independent ramen shops in the city.
Okay. So it really sounds like tourists are maybe prioritizing the unique service, the strong brand name, the easy accessibility,
The whole package.
while locals are perhaps more focused on that traditional atmosphere, maybe a more refined appreciation for specific nuances and flavor, and the overall value proposition compared to other local spots.
I think that sums it up really well. The priorities seem different. Those comments on X really underline that, the repeated mentions of tourists going to Ichiran while locals actively choose other places.
And those specific reviews you highlighted earlier really paint that picture clearly. Can we just quickly revisit those?
Sure. So you had the super enthusiastic 5-star review from the Singaporean tourist,
Yeah.
right? Loved the customization, thought it was delicious, totally worth the line. Classic tourist perspective, maybe.
Enjoying the experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you have the reviewer from Fukuoka giving it 4 stars, but clearly signaling, better to eat locally, suggesting there are other, perhaps more real options.
A more critical local viewpoint.
And then that final one from Kanazawa, who seemed like maybe a more seasoned traveler within Japan, only gave it 2 stars.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And specifically noted it was full of tourists, and they personally prefer other ramen places.
Yeah.
Very direct.
That's a really clear snapshot of the divide, isn't it? It seems like tourists, maybe especially first-timers, often have a much more positive or perhaps less critical take compared to people who are really embedded in the local food scene.
Exactly right. It really just shows how our different backgrounds, our expectations, our perspectives, they really shape how we experience things, especially food when we're traveling.
So, okay, let's try and bring this all together. It sounds like foreign tourists are flocking to Ichiran in Fukuoka for a specific cocktail of reasons, that unique private dining setup, the customizable menu, the power of a globally recognized brand.
Right, and often boosted by travel guides and social media buzz.
Yeah, it's accessible, it's easy, it feels like a safe bet, and it offers a distinct Japanese experience.
Hmm.
Locals, though, they operate in a different context. They have this huge, rich landscape of Fukuoka ramen to choose from.
Decades of history and variety.
So they have their own established favorites. They might see Ichiran as a tourist-centric, maybe less authentic now, and they're prioritizing that traditional vibe, maybe specific flavor profiles, and perhaps judging value differently.
That nails it, I think. And it really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About what we look for when we travel.
Yeah.
Is it the comfort of something familiar? Is it the novelty of a unique experience like those booths? Or is it the hunt for something that feels truly, quote unquote, authentic, even if it means doing a bit more homework to find it?
What does that tell you, the listener, about your own travel style? Do you tend to hit the famous spots, the ones everyone talks about? Or do you actively try to seek out those hidden local gems?
It's a great question to ask yourself.
It really is. And, it makes you wonder, with information like flying around instantly now and social media having such a huge influence,
Yeah.
how are these local food experiences being shaped? And how are they perceived by both visitors and the people who live there?
Yeah, what's the long-term effect?
And what could that mean for the future of culinary tourism in places like Fukuoka or anywhere, really? Definitely something to chew on.
Maybe over your next bowl of ramen.
Ah, exactly. Wherever you might be enjoying it.